But I had on this one, these masts are not located, they're not anchored in the bottom, they just set in floppy loose holes. So what I did is, to start with, I put a string across here and I attached myself this way, and this board that you see across the back, I moved that along and I took a line and pulled it tight. Now you have a tripod. And then I have a small little, the ship is mounted level, a small little level, and you can pull these exactly till you get it perfectly level, and then you can set the angle that you want. And if you look down the line, they're probably lined up as good as any I've ever did. And what I liked about it was when you start tightening your shrouds, you can pull them pretty tight, because you can see if one line's getting a little loose, okay, we'll tighten the other one a little bit more. So it's the first time I've ever laid out a line and put ties down, and it works really good. So I've always preached that it's kind of nice. It is on smaller ones to drill the hole, but not in this case I couldn't. Talk a little bit about, I'll get into one of the things that we always talk about is, what do you do first? In this case, you're building a construction where there's a lot, I put a lot of tension on these. These things are tight, they're not loose. So you build up the front end, what I call the bow sprout supports. They'll be anchored in, and you get these tied down, because you're going to be putting a lot of tension on the bow sprout's tied down here too. You're going to be putting a lot of tension on this thing, and this is what holds it, because this portion of the bow sprout supports this and also the back one. So now you've got, with the lines in here, you can actually get your rigging set so it's pretty tight. Now when you get to putting the shrouds in, there's two ways that you do this that work good. Number one, everybody always wants your dead eyes to line up nice and straight across there. You don't want one high, you don't want one low. I'm not sure that on ships it really was that way, but we like to make our models that way. Okay, what you do is, there's two ways you do shrouds. Number one, the easier way, is when you don't have real large shrouds, you put individual shrouds. So you take your eye or your dead eye and you just fasten it on, and I'll pass this around, you just fasten it onto your dead eye, and you leave your string long, bring it up, wrap it one time around, leave it hang over, and then snug it up on a little dab of CA glue on there, and then you take the one from the other side, bring it up, wrap it around, cut, and then you got, that way you have your little support. You make up and people have said you use a wire. I've never had success using a wire. The little blocks like this are your holder blocks. I'll start passing some of this stuff around, and they become the blocks that you actually have the one eyelet already secured on your shroud, and the other one goes into your chain plate, and then you snug them up, and they will always be the same if you pull them up the same snugness. So now when you get the shroud that you want tucked up to where you want to be, your next thing is, should you at that point put in your tie ropes or your ropes that put the block and tackle together, but just tug them up, because you're going to be, they're secured but the line is still hanging loose, and go down the line and do them all. Now you have them all hanging loose, but they're kind of snug. Alright, when you get done with that, and also when you do your chain plates, make damn sure you're anchoring them good, because the last thing you want to do is you torque these down pretty good. So now when you've got the shrouds up here, the two methods that you use, in this particular case, this ship has more shrouds than any I've ever worked on, 11 actually, in one row, which means when you get to the top, you're going to have a real mess up in here. So you're going to have to figure out how you're going to make, and later on when you guys look at it, you can see how I fixed the mess, because you would come up around and down, but you have to leave that rope build up. So because the shrouds are so heavy and so thick, I had to make one shroud do both sides. So on the first side, you build your shroud, you just attach your eye onto that, just like that, turned in the right direction so the eye is up. The next critical thing is, you can do this in a vise, you take a alligator clip, and then take a piece of cord or whatever you want, medium thickness, and wax the hell out of it. And put a half hitch in and just pull it tight, and you then snug it right up against that thing. So now, where your alligator clip is holding this, you pull this tight. Now you seize this around that block. Now comes the trickiest part. There's two ways that you secure knots. Number one is, every knot I do, I put freight check on the end. It's a slower acting, but it does not wick. So every glue joint I make, with the exception if I need a quick, fast one, then you use CA glue, CA thin. The trick...
So what you're saying is that when you wax that line...
that it gets very sticky.
It gets, yeah, but that will hold it. I mean,
well, no, it's going to hold it enough so you can glue it.
Okay.
Okay, when you want to glue something really secure and you do not want it to wick, because wicking has two problems. When you wick, you not only destroy the color, but you also make it gets very brittle. And if you do have some that wick away on you, at that point take a sharp blade and just scratch it, and most of that color comes back. So you can bring back, if it wicked down on you and you don't want that color, just take the blade and scratch it a little bit, and pretty soon it looks pretty much the same as it did before.
Say, Duane, what is that adhesive you just have there in a little jar?
That's freight check bought at Michael's.
Michael, you going to pass it around?
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
and that, Bob, and that's in this.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm gonna pass this stuff
And you
around.
get that at Michael's?
Micro, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, now, here's something that works really good to use when you want to use CA glue and not have it wick. Put it on right out here and watch it wick in, and you can kind of push it in, and all of a sudden it'll go around and it stops. It doesn't wick. So don't try to put it on this part. Put it on a tail edge and it'll wick itself in. Now once you've got that wick together, then you can take the clip off, and this knot is secure and it will not. So when you do something with high tension like this, you need to use CA glue on that portion. Now, here's the tricky part. When you have this, now you've got this one side that's done over here, and you've got your spacer block holding it in position. So now you've located yourself from here to here. You bring it up, you bring it halfway around, you pull it tight, and a little dab of CA glue on this side here. Now you've got this one is snug, but and then you have the whole end hanging out over here yet. You bring that other end down, and this gets a little trickier.
So, Duane, so you're not tying it around and coming back down. You're going up and over and down the other side.
Because of the limited amount that you can wrap with this many. I got 11 of them up there.
Okay.
So this one worked good because it didn't take that much room. But now you're going to have to put this other eyelet on this side over here with an established length. So what you do is you come down, you bring the shroud around, put your little thing on here, and then again seize it with the cord, and you're usually going to be pretty close. I make this one just a little bit longer than this one because you can't get it quite as tight. So that's why this one is red. So now you have your shrouds, and then the next thing I do is I take the rope that cord I'm going to put in. The first thing you do is just a little dab of CA glue on the end, and you can thread it with that. Just a little dab of that. And then the other end, you put your knot through here, a little dab of the regular glue, the slower glue, the freight check, you reeve them in there and snug them and leave them. Now you've got them all done. Now you go back and you start at the front here, tightening them down. And you watch that line. These are all pretty damn tight. And you can tighten them along, and you're going to see that they will actually becoming pretty damn close to each other when you go across.
Okay, Dwayne, but on all those lines now, have you waxed them?
Do not, I repeat, do not wax any ones that are going through a pulley. It'll screw you up. There's two
But
things.
the main lines, the main shrouds are waxed, is that right?
I wax them right here. I wax them to take the fuzziness off.
Right.
Otherwise, they're too fuzzy. But never wax one that's going through pulleys.
Why?
Because as you pull it through the pulley, the wax is going to peel off. It's going to get messy. It's nothing that's going to help you in the end anyway for holding, because, and I'll get to when we get into the rattlings, why you don't wax some things and some you do. Some you wax the hell of it, some you don't. Now you've got your shrouds set, now you secure your lines, but you don't tie those lines. If you look on this side, what you do is you make little pegs out of toothpicks and stick them when you pull your line tight and you get it really snugged up, you stick these in. Those are locking blocks. Now you can then take, when you've got your locking block in, you can take your loose line and you can bring it up and tie it around the top up here. And there's, after the meeting, if some people want to show, I left these loose to show you how I do it, and I have another one here. But this was the thing that made all the difference in the world. And when you snug them up, you pull on the middle one, because that's the one that doesn't want to move. And when you get, and then you pull the hell out of the last one. When you get them as tight as you want, you take your thing and push up on the bottom of the eyelet, and that evens out your pull on those. You don't even it out till you get your underneath there. Now you can get them pretty damn tight. In fact, you can be surprisingly tight. Now you've got them locked. When you got them all locked and everything looks good, then you go back and bring the things up around and tie them. Again, securing them with. So I found that this process, I've tried so many different ways. This idea of doing this process and then putting the plugs in and holding them, because if you try to pull them up and then tie, you can't hold them tight. They're going to loosen on you. But this way, she's locked down here, and you lose very little bit coming back out of them.
Dwayne,
So,
is it, you're pulling it tight, there's a lot of pressure pulling on that deadeye now, right?
damn right there, yeah.
So how did you fasten that deadeye to the hull of the ship?
That's what I'm talking about, Dewey. You have to be very careful when you build your ships. Those chain plates are called chain plates because you need to secure every one of those into the hull with pins.
Okay.
Even though they're coming up over this outside, they all have to be pinned with at least 2 pins into the hull.
And so I can't see it from here because my eyes, but is that kind of like not a straight bar, but you use kind of like a chain to pull
Well,
them out?
it's
Did
not.
you
They
strap
call it
around
a chain plate. In this particular case, it's really a wire wrap around. What this is, it's a wire wrap going around and then coming. It's 2 wires, and they're actually seated glued together, and you kind of get them in.
And then at the end you pin them into the hull.
Then you put at least 2 or 3 pins into the hull, and those are usually like a stick pin, which
Okay.
is 20,000, something like that. But this is why I said, if you're going to want to make them nice and tight, you better damn have them anchored in here,
Yeah,
or
right.
things are going to be flying off. And that's the way they had to build them in those days too. So now we've got the point where we've got these nice shrouds, and then we come to the part that's, I'm going to point out 2 tools, a half hitch, a square knot, and a slip knot.
Mhm.
That's all you ever use, because when you do something like this, you bring them around and you secure them with a little tie like this. Again, alligator clip tie and round, and then half hitch and glue. So all the fancy knots that people try to teach you, you don't need to know. It doesn't mean anything. Now you come to this point, you now got your shroud set. And in this particular case, I built this whole assembly first. I did this first, all of these, and if you look at it, they're pretty straight. But I did this was a complete assembly when I set it into the ship. So all of this top stuff was completed, just as you see it. I say was, because then I made what the dumbest thing that anybody can do. I used the wrong thread. I've had all the ratlins in here. I'm going to point out, if you want to save wrap thread or anything, toilet paper holders really work good. You just put a slot in each side and you wrap around and put it in there. Good use for those. But what happened was, this was cord that they had supplied with the ship, and like a dumb ass, it's fuzzy. It's just fuzzy stuff. And I went and did all these ratlins, and I never liked the way they looked. And then I got down below, and I'm going to use a little heavier one in here, and I found Blue Jacket has cotton thread that doesn't get fuzzy. So what I did is, another good idea, when thread spools get away on you, this is a good way to hold them. It just, nothing pisses you off more than when that damn thread goes in under the table and there it goes. The whole thing will unwind. The whole thing will unwind. These little things just, they're laying there, just put them on, and they work so clutch that this thing never moves around. So toilet paper rollers on the big ones, these little things here. This is the tool you really need when you're going to be doing trimming, where you want to get close. And I snipped every knot, and I took all of those off, and I never cut a shroud. And then I happily started with my new thread redoing it again. And in this particular case, I had to, they only make this in white. This is 10 thousandths diameter thread, and I've never tried it, so I just took somebody gave me some shit. Actually, I got these on an airplane. I did not empty these myself. But,
That's okay, you can tell us anything wrong.
yeah. Okay.
Are you sure that isn't Prozac?
No. Actually, when you if you're working with the stains, rather than dealing out of that dumb can all the time, put them in a little bottle like this. So I actually stained the thread, and it worked pretty good. I brushed the whole thing, and then you unroll about half of it, and then take a cloth with stain on, and just kind of pull it through there, and it stained out real nice. And I've never did that before. I've never colored thread before, and it works really good. So now I'm waiting for my next order. I ran out of thread here. They're sending me some more. But I now, for the first time, will stain thread. I never did that before.
You could also just drop the thing in a cup of tea.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. I've heard that it's supposed to work pretty good.
It does.
It does.
Yeah.
It'll brown them out pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Then you don't get to empty the bottle like this, but that's okay.
No, you have the bottle anyway.
Oh, okay. Now, when you talk about, you guys that haven't used it, when I say liberal, I mean you pull this through at least 4 or 5 times, and you take your hand and wipe it off.
Mm-hmm.
That makes that thread sticky, but it does not work good. Now let's move on to, we've got our shrouds up, and now we're going to go.
You said it does not work good, and then you stopped.
It doesn't work good if you're going to use pulleys or shrouds.
Okay, okay.
Or the rat lines. Because what you do with the rat line is, you do just the opposite. You take that thread that you have right like this, and what you really want to do is you take it like this with your thumb and your fingernail. It doesn't make it fuzzy, but it makes soft and flexible. And then you cut your little piece, and you put your half inch around here, and then as you work on these, you bring your half inch around, and you hold your thumb in behind here and jerk it tight, and that knot just tightens up just like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason you put your thumb there is you don't want these to pull together on you. Otherwise, and you always then when you're done kind of make sure that there's looseness a little bit in that, so you're not bowing it in like this when you tie them in.
Say, Duane,
Yeah.
when you're doing the rat lines, are you up like this?
There's two ways that you do that. In fact, I just developed a stomach cramp from sitting in one position. I mean, it's painful, it actually is. So what I actually do is I try to stand as much as possible and keep my arms like this. You start this shit and you're gonna have pains in your body you can't believe. I mean, your muscles, everything starts hurting in your body. So I'll usually put some, and then what I did is, because this is a taller ship, that's why I have that shorter table. I pull that up and I lower the ship so I can stand and work. It drives you nuts. I mean, you try holding your hands all day like this once. I mean, you have pains and. I went to the doctor once. I said to him, and I told him, he said, "Well, quit that damn rigging." He said, you're causing it yourself. But there, you have to kind of. And then I even sometimes wear a back brace, which helps a lot. That kind of builds you up there. But yeah, so when you're putting these in, it's time consuming, and then each one of these I put a little dab, and you can put quite a bit of this on, and if you look later on, they really turn out to be nice looking little knots. Now why I don't put a dip into them, it's too damn difficult to do, to create this stuff to make a dip. And I'm thinking to myself, when they built these ships, they didn't purposely put a dip in. They got the dip when these guys are walking up and down, and the ropes in the sea is stretching out. So
Part of the difficulty of doing that is to keep the shrouds from starting to pull together when you put the lines in there.
That's why I'm saying on this side here, you always put your thumb right below the one you just did, and you hold them so those two, when you tie that knot, it can't pull it in.
Yeah.
And then make sure when you're done that is actually not pulling in. Loosen it just a little bit.
Yeah.
That is the biggest mistake you're going to make. And I've got some ships with them where they look like that, and that's the reason. Two reasons why. Number one is you never had these tight enough to start with. These are the tightest I've ever made them on any ship, and it works out really pretty good. So then the last thing is, when you get into these dead eyes, always remember that's a drilled hole. Take a little chamfering tool like this and just chamfer the hell out of both sides of these so the thread can move through there without having that sharp edge in there. That's one of the best things you can do for getting your block and tackles to work a little better, is to and then
Were you or somebody else, I remember at one of our meetings in the past years, they said take the thread and put a little super glue on the tip. That makes it like a needle.
That's what I do on these. The ones that you're going to do for your block and tackle, you tie a little knot at the end, a dab of the fast freight check on there, pull it in so that knot can't loosen up. It probably never will. And then in the other end, just a little dip of CA glue, and you can thread those through there just like nothing.
Otherwise
it's your natural
Get it
needle.
through,
It becomes your natural needle, and it's surprising how good that works. So now
You said the freight check was given.
I know from Lincoln.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah. Now one other thing, when you're putting these your main masts in, you have one other problem that you need to do, and that you have to deal with the twist, the turn of these. So when you're putting these in, when you got every set the way you want, then you take, and it could be any kind of a board, or and just line it up and square it out so it looks right angle, and then put CA glue down in the hole. Now you fixed yourself so the thing can't turn. And that's because if you start rigging and that thing starts turning, you won't know it. So and it also really ridges up that thing. So once you get yourself set to where you want to be, and then you set your twist right, otherwise you're going to get done, you're going to find one of them is actually angled this way. So eliminate the possibility of them twisting right off the bat. And then the last thing is, and I checked with, they still sell them. I called John down at, not Chipways, but what's that other place?
Expo?
The Mall Expo. And they still do sell these. And these are the handiest little wire burners, because if you get fussy, you're gonna find some little stupid ass little edge sticking out and you wanna cut it off and you're gonna end up cutting something you don't want cut. This little thing here, even though it's only got one battery, it'll burn edges off so nice. They just go down, you can just burn off the fuzzy edges. Yeah, so if you get fussy, you see a fuzzy edge, you're gonna try and get after the scissor. I cut a shrunk once trying to. Yeah.
Many times.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
So
did that little bugger cost?
$29.
I got one and it doesn't work. I can't get the,
It's just got one battery in
it
it.
used to work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Change the battery.
Well,
Change the battery.
and you guys know how know how to tell if you have a bad battery or not.
Stick it on your tongue.
You know, if you drop them like this and they don't stand, they're bad.
How's that again?
What?
Just this one's getting down to pretty low. They won't stand if they're.
Is that right?
Yeah, try sometime on a dead battery. Just take it and out and try to drop it. And it's gonna tip over.
I've lived all these years and I just learned that.
That's why you belong to this club. So
How does that work, Duane?
have no idea. But some of these things are, once you get into rigging, it's how fussy you want to get. But you know those fuzzy edges, they can drive you crazy sometimes. You try and stick that sucker now.
Yeah, tell me about it.
And that's a real oh shit moment when that happens. So basically, this is the first time, the reason I took the time to do this, the first time I've ever been able to have a ship exactly at the right point to show what we're trying to do. And all the stuff I showed you today is not in the book. It's just makes common sense. Well, that's the way to do it. So hopefully, now if any of you guys want, after the meeting, if you want to see how how you actually thread this, but I went through it pretty clearly. It's just a matter. The first one you bring through, you just put a ½ inch around and make it long enough. And the next one, it's always in behind, over and under. Just remember, in behind, over and under, in behind, over and under. And that way, that little knot, when you hold it, you give it a couple of jerks, it just jerks itself in there. And this is why it's so important to hold this piece like this, so you're holding it there. So hopefully, these are some of the
Looks like
things.
you're about 70% of the way done.
No, I got another year. I got to do life.
I mean, in terms of the amount of crap that you have to put on.
Yeah, well, I got to do all these. I only got these. This one down here. I got all these bottom ones.
The upper part's all done.
But anyway, it's remember a couple of things. First of all, in shrouds, the easy way, if you can do it, is do single ones, bring them up over and around, and when you bring them halfway around, with sear glue, the next one goes over the top. They just go no place. And if you look at it close, you can see what I did. But from most people, unless I tell you what I did, won't know that these were individual ones, and these were. And these are kind of proud. I thought I've never had to put lead in. If you take time to look how I actually got these to stack out and come out, I surprised myself with those.
You wear a magnifier when you do
all
this?
the time.
Is this gonna get crow's feet on it?
What now?
Crow's feet,
What's that?
rigging from here to here.
I'm debating. I don't know if I want to put that in between there or not.
I don't think the victory got this.
It does. It shows. I just don't know if I want to tie all that shit in there or not. Good thing you brought it up because I've been debating and I probably won't. What I'll probably do a year from now when I finish this thing is because we have one member in this club that gets a little touchy, I'm going to make some little red plugs and stick them in the side of the cannon that's sticking out there. Well, I'll never hear the end of it. So when you see the little red plugs in there, this sucker's done. Okay, guys.
Oh,
that's
whoa,
all.
another question.
One question.
Yeah.
Are the cannon, I didn't look, Are the cannon open on both sides?
No, this side over here, I've closed all the doors, and I like what I did. It was
There
the
you
right, it was the right way to go.
Saved a lot of work, didn't it?
Yeah, it really did, and now I have to find one more thing I need. You notice I have these openings here where the people standing. I need to find a little image with a little silly looking hat on that it looks something like the guy I know that stood in that one picture.
I know where you can get one.
Oh, you do?
See, that's a 1 to 98.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah,
That's
brings up
HO
a question.
scale.
Yeah.
And you can, in HO scale, you can buy figures. You go to the hobby shop or whatever. And in my particular case, I bought a whole box of figures of different doing different things that had to be painted.
Mm-hmm.
But they're HO scale, so keep that in mind. If you want a little figure in there, HO scale.
Can I get a smiling one, or is it going to be one that looks pissed off? I mean, kind of.
Depends on how you paint them.
Yeah. So
Is there a
anyway,
place where you can get scale figures?
yeah, there is. I never do, but you know about where you can get scale figures, right?
Yeah, at the hobby shop. It's down on, the closest one is on Bell and 43rd.
Yeah,
Hobby
hobby
shop.
shop.
Yeah,
These little
yeah.
alligators.
And they sell
Sorry,
HO scale figures and scale figures.
Dwayne,
Oh, they have them to scale.
question.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
The
sure.
rod goes up one side, wraps around the mast, and goes down the other side of the ship, on the same side.
That's the way these big ones are, because I was going to get too much wrapping up here.
Okay.
I thought it
Just wraps around once and it comes down the other side of the
Yeah,
ship.
comes up, goes around, and then down the other side.
Oh, the other side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's why I told you at this point, that's when you use this setup here, where you want to, this little alligator clip will help hold that
Yeah.
dead on. But the little fella here that comes in and cramps that, if you pull it too tight, you can't get it shut all the way.
Yeah.
But once you get it shut, then you take this cord here that's heavily loaded with wax and just pull it in there, and that's when you feed it a little bit of CA glue. And almost instantly you take that clamp off. It's done. It's done. So that's probably, and the trick to getting all of these the same height is how carefully you pull that tension when you grease that bed. I mean, I've tried 4 different ways of doing it. This seems to work the best. So, any questions on this?
Yeah, question.
Yeah.
I may be prejudiced, but why did you do it, the standing rigging? Why didn't you do it in black?
Because, number one, this had a brown thread that was heavy enough for it. And actually, when I looked at I looked at the ship model out in California, it wasn't black. It was just black. So
You'll
there's,
notice on the Mayflower there that they're not black either, and I was having a real
Well,
problem with it.
we also have this rule that all standing rigging is black. But when I go look at a ship, you have standing, there could be more standing rigging. I'm sure they didn't get up here and tar all this shit up here. So on this particular one, this is kind of a beige off color.
Right.
The problem that I'm seeing, in fact, Bob, take a look at your pictures. I don't think they're black on that picture.
Yeah, they are.
They are?
Yeah.
The main ones are?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Got the surprise in San Diego.
Yeah.
And they pretty well line up the dead eyes too on there if you look closely.
Yeah.
at them.
I'm not sure though, do you think they always were that accurate, I mean, in the real world?
I think the ones they used that were standing rigging only were probably tarred.
Yeah.
That's why they're black.
But anyway, to answer your question, yeah, this is the heavy stuff they gave me. And, this
Which
was-
is, with mine too, the heavy stuff they gave me is
Yeah,
Yeah.
got the same color as
those are
yours.
Yeah.
new.
So,
They're adjusted and tight. but you-
Okay, Jim, I think I'm pretty well done with what I had here.